Are you a writer who struggles with info dumping or front-loading exposition? Do you worry about making dull and unengaging scenes due to exposition you have to share? Do you worry about your exposition breaking the reader's immersion due to the exposition feeling forced or unnatural? If so, I have just the tool you need with a little something I've created called the Exposition Armory. The name might sound weird on the surface, but it'll make perfect sense after I share with you a certain lesson about writing exposition from Story by Robert McKee. So, first, here's the foundation for everything we'll be going over in this video. Skill in exposition means making it invisible. You want the audience to just absorb the information as the story progresses, as opposed to feeling they're being lectured or that you're being self-indulgent. To accomplish this, to make it invisible, requires you to dramatize it. Make as much of the exposition you share's purpose to further the immediate conflict. The information it conveys, meanwhile, is secondary. Robert McKee states that anxious novices reverse the order, putting expositional duty ahead of dramatic necessity, which I agree on. I've seen it so many times with writers who front-load information, which instantly destroys any confidence I have in them. The reason why it does is because it tells me that the writer is unskilled at the gate, that this is the best they can do right now. It pushes me away from reading more since it doesn't inspire faith that I'm in trustworthy hands when it comes to knowing what it takes to put together a good narrative. And, well, my time is precious. Anyway, to dramatize exposition, one needs to convert exposition into ammunition. Think about how characters use the information in their struggles to get what they want. This way, the motivation for the information is greater than the facts themselves. It's a simple lesson which I wish to expand on. What I got thinking about was this. What are scenarios that are inherently dramatic which writers can use to hide their exposition? I thought it would be nice if I had a document I could reference to for whenever I'm writing and need to think about this. This led me to create the Exposition Armory. See, the name makes sense now. Anyway, the Exposition Armory is a collection of dramatic situations in which exposition can be naturally weaved in. I'm still developing bits and pieces of it, as you'll see as this goes on, but I can share some of the work of it so far. If you'd like to contribute to it, feel free to in the comments. Also, if you like content like this, be sure to support the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and sharing it in places where writers frequent. Every little bit helps. Now, without further ado, let's dig into my armory. 1. Use conflicts of interest. Create situations where characters have opposing goals or desires. As they clash, let the arguments reveal important background details. For an example here, let's use Dante and Nero arguing in Devil May Cry 5 over what to do once Virgil makes his return. Dante wants Nero to stay out of everything entirely while Nero wants to help. Nero keeps pressing Y, and this leads to Dante blurting out that Virgil is Nero's father and he's trying to stop Nero from having to kill him for that reason. Dante also finally shares then what he had figured out about Nero, with the info that Nero being Virgil's son having long been confirmed outside of the narrative. 2. Leverage past relationships. Old friendships, rivalries, and family ties can be a rich ground for drama. Characters can use their shared history as weapons in their current conflicts. For this instance, I'll use Blue Lock's earliest matches with regards to Chiguri's backstory, particularly with his ACL tear. The Wanama brothers from the opposite team have a history with him, so they can bring stuff up and use it as a weapon against him in the present. 3. Create situational stress. Place characters in high-stress environments where they must act under pressure. As they struggle to cope, they can let slip vital information. My immediate thoughts are towards Hagrid slipping up and admitting that he lent his three-headed dog to Dumbledore to guard the Philosopher's Stone. It's been some time, maybe I'm misremembering it, but I'm fairly certain that falls into a situational thing after when he's talking them through their concerns. 4. Introduce a third-party catalyst. Bring in a character who forces the main characters to confront their past or explain themselves. Third parties probing questions or accusations can prompt revelations. A simple example of this, from Princess Principal's first episode, the girls bringing in an outsider who they have to hide and extract for a job. They already have everything set up. Episode 1 of Princess Principal is Case 11, and so through this outsider's eyes do we get an introduction, as he ends up asking questions about what's going on. 5. Use physical confrontation. Let fights or physical struggles bring out the backstory. As characters physically clash, They can taunt each other with past deeds or shared history, or maybe even use their history as a form of psychological warfare. My mind goes to all kinds of combat-oriented things, but in this case, I'm going to use Code Geass. When Mal uses his mind-reading powers to reveal that Suzaku committed patricide, then he keeps pushing things, revealing that Suzaku's motivations aren't as heroic or just as he tries to make it seem, that he's trying to die on the battlefield and be punished for his past actions. 6. Embed exposition into routine actions. Integrate key information into characters' everyday actions or habits that are linked to their past or personalities. These actions should feel natural and reveal the exposition incidentally. For this example, I don't have any example off the top of my head, sorry. So if I were to implement it, maybe I'd make a character who attends a church or something every day and eventually reveal it to relate to some kind of past or something. I don't know. Or maybe a character stays up on fitness for reasons related to their job, like how Gokul 13's exercises are done specifically for forearm and bicep strength, given his profession as a sniper. 7. Reveal through strategic flashbacks. Use flashbacks sparingly, and only when they directly enhance the current dramatic situation. Flashbacks should be triggered by present events or emotions. I've been rewatching some Pirate Sentai Go Kaiger lately with a friend, and when it comes to the backstory of the crew, information is revealed progressively. For instance, the full story of what happened to the Red Pirates isn't revealed until episode 15, when Captain Marvelous is forced to think about it again upon the return of the member who betrayed them, Bosco. It could have been explained before. A brief flashback was shown once, and the existence of the Red Pirates is a known detail, but it wouldn't have been the most dramatic and relevant time to share the full story. 8. Harness eavesdropping and overheard conversations. Let characters overhear conversations that reveal crucial information. This technique can build tension as they react to what they learn. While the scene does have some stuff that is said for the sake of the audience, Usopp and Luffy overhearing Kuro works in some details like this, like when Kuro defends himself that he's never murdered an entire family since the father's death wasn't planned. It's a nice, subtle way to say he killed a character's mother without outright saying it, and also build stakes for what's coming next. 9. Incorporate symbolic objects. Use meaningful objects that characters interact with to reveal their past or emotions. These objects can serve as a physical reminder of their history or significant events. Ed's watch in Fullmetal Alchemist can be used like this. I can't remember if it was or wasn't. I think it was, but to be frank, I don't feel like revisiting right now to work out everything. If I'm wrong, correct me. 10. Explore power dynamics. Situate characters in position where power imbalances force one to reveal information to gain leverage or control. This dynamic can naturally lead to exposition. My mind immediately goes to interrogation scenes like Batman demanding information from a mook while holding them on the side of a building or something. Terrible interrogation method, by the way. I'd prefer to mention cases where a client goes to someone and shares information and try to convince a character to lend their help. 11. Employ misunderstandings and mistaken identities. Characters may be mistaken for each other's identities or intentions, leading to dramatic confrontations when the truth comes out. I surprisingly can't come up with a specific example right now, or at least not an example I want to talk about. I'm sure there's probably something I could use from Spy Family or San Lupin or, I don't know, something that I actually like, but my mind is blanking at the moment on a precise example, and the one example I can think of I refuse to use. 12. Use internal monologue and reaction. Show a character's internal thoughts or reactions to events. Their inner dialogue or facial expressions can reveal how the past influences their present. Again, I could probably find an example from a book, but here, I'll use my own work. The first time I bring up Andrew is in book 1, which leads to the first time I get to bring up a certain incident, which I don't elaborate on in detail until book 2. Regardless, with this armory, you should be able to naturally infuse information. Or at least you should be able to, as long as you make sure every piece of exposition is motivated by the scene's context. There are tons more I can say about exposition, as well as scenarios one can use for exposition. Maybe I'll revise this to include the many scenarios I feel exposition naturally works in, like training scenes, but who knows. That's a whole discussion for another video and for the comment sections. So if you want to have those talks, hope to see you there.